Hello, this is Callie Collins, Chief Product Officer with Optimality, and this training is focused on commitment planning. Commitment planning is a portion of the activity flow diagram or activity domain within Optimality. And so we're going to dive into this specific feature within the overall Optimality system. So why do we do commitment planning within Optimality? The idea is that teams often struggle with clear ownership, shifting priorities, and missing deadlines. Commitment planning provides structure to keep these teams aligned, accountable, and focused. The purpose of commitment planning is to create a shared understanding of what a team intends to deliver within a defined timeline. By making commitments visible and measurable, teams build trust, improve accountability, and gain insight into their performance. Over time, this approach fosters predictability and continuous improvement in how work is planned and executed. So what is commitment planning? It aligns work to goals. Teams are able to commit to activities that are directly tied to their objectives and milestones. Time-bound commitments. Work is planned in manageable time spans, like sprints, for accountability and focus. Performance tracking. Actual results are measured against commitments to highlight progress and gaps. Improved predictability. It reduces surprises by clarifying ownership, deadlines, and dependencies. And it drives continuous improvement, where teams learn from past performance to refine future commitments. So for this training, I'm going to be doing a little bit of bouncing back and forth between the live system and the slideshow here. So this is the Optimality activity flow diagram, and this is just a test project that I'm going to be using to demonstrate commitment planning. We have a series of activities that are here. We see some milestones. We also see a few that are some different colors. And after I show the commitment planning initially, I'm going to get into what those different colors mean. So to access commitment planning, you're going to click this button over here in the Actions section on the toolbar. So the first thing you're able to note is that it defaults here for a proposed plan, the team name, and the planned cycle commitment date or finish date is concatenated here in the title. If you change it to one of the other teams that is in this endeavor, it will change the name of that. So every team is independent when running their commitment plans, and every activity is required to be tagged to a responsible team. If you already have an active plan in place, it defaults to the active tab, but on this example, I don't have any active plans in place yet, so it's defaulting to proposed. It's going to initially default to 1 week past whatever that team's last planned finish cycle date was, or if that team has not done a cycle, it will default to 1 week from today's date. So for this example, we did run some in this test environment, so I did already have some that were completed. So I'm going to go ahead and select my planned cycle finish date. Right now, as we said, it is set to a 1 week period default. That in the future will be something that would be editable in your Endeavor settings, where you can select if that Endeavor is doing daily, weekly, biweekly, or any other series of cycles durations. So what we're going to do now is show the results. So when I click Show Results, it's going to show me activities for this team that are able to be started by the time this cycle completes. So let's go ahead and pick a different date as well so you can see how that changes. If we bump it back, there are fewer activities here as well that are selected on this one. So if you're taking a look at this, the idea is, in general, we are working on project 1, 2, 3, and I want to know over the next week, what things should our team be focused on so that we can then select what things will our team focus on. For this initial section over here on some of the metrics, we are getting ready to change and update those metrics. So for that item, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the PowerPoint to show you what that looks like. And while I'm doing that, I will also show you some of the codes here that we use to identify quickly what status are on each of these different activities. So using the system for a little bit, you kind of start getting familiar with these, but I will show you some of the logic that we have on here. So there are two different status fields in Optimality. One of them is your typical activity status. The wording is defaulted to planned, in progress, or complete. Those field names are able to be customized as well, depending on what your organization wants to use. If you're wanting to use not started, or if you're wanting to use in progress instead of started, all of these are able to be customized. So this top row here along the top and the bottom, that is the activity status. Optimality is fully functional without using commitment planning. It is an enhanced feature that you are able to use optionally that we think is really important for teams to be able to follow if you want that accountability, as we stated, and you want to be able to run metrics on what did we say we were going to do and what did we actually do at the end of that cycle. So going through this area here, if you have a typical planned activity that has not been committed, not added to a commitment plan, you just get this basic black border. If you are not doing commitment planning and you start an activity, it switches to a blue border. And as you can see, it's still a thinner line. And then if you complete an activity without having added it to a commitment plan, it then goes back to this very dark gray and you get a single slash this direction through your activity. So if you're not doing commitment planning, those are the three examples that you'll see. This one for planned, this one for started, and then this one for complete. These additional items are added on when you're doing commitment planning. And as you can see, these all host a bold border. So if an activity is proposed to be in the next commitment plan, it then now carries a secondary status of committed pending. And it now switches to this kind of light purple color. Next, once you actually start that commitment plan, it just becomes the darker color of that same one, and it becomes this darker blue color. This is how they will sit when they're in a commitment plan. They will also, once added to a commitment plan, either proposed plan or a started plan, you will get this icon here as well of the two people shaking hands. They're committing to that activity, and they have an agreement that they're going to do that. Once you get to the end of the commitment cycle, you have some choices on what you're going to do with that activity. Best case is that activity is completed during the commitment cycle. As soon as you change the status to completed, it gets a mark this direction. Once that commitment plan is completed, it gets the full X, and it removes the dark bold border and just switches it to the basic completed border. So this is your ideal. This is what you're wanting to get to. So that would, again, the workflow on that is you have a planned activity. It's added as proposed to a commitment plan. You then start that commitment plan. At the end of the cycle or during that cycle, it is marked as complete. It then stays this same color, but it receives the mark through it. And once that commitment cycle is completed, it gets the full completed done X. There are a couple other things that could be done, however, with activities when you are in the commitment process. One of those is that you may not start that activity during the commitment process as started, or you might not be able to finish it, and you should have. It's taking longer than expected. Any of those examples would be an example of not completed as planned. In order to close out a commitment plan, all activities that were added to that plan must be statused. So you have to do something with them before you can close out that plan. So if it wasn't completed, the first option is to mark it as not completed as planned. So as we stated, that just means that you didn't complete that activity on the date that you planned to, or at the duration, or at a lower duration than you planned to complete it. When you right-click the activity, you're able to change that status to not completed as planned. It will prompt you to provide a reason for why it was not completed as planned, and then it will change to this red border. The other option is that you are able to commit this as ongoing to the next plan. So for this one, if you are doing 1-week cycles and you have a 10-day activity, obviously you're not going to be able to complete a 10-day activity in 1 week. So you would start that activity in the commitment cycle. And because you're still expecting to finish it, you just aren't able to finish it during that cycle, it gets marked as ongoing to the next plan. So it's automatically added onto your plan for the following week or day or whatever your cycle is. When you do that, you don't have to give a root cause, but you do have a different type of pop-up. And I'll show you what that looks like here shortly. After you do that, it does change it to this orange color. Another option that we didn't talk as much about, because some organizations don't choose to do this option where they're starting, is that if it's in a commitment plan, you are able to mark it that it has been started. You don't have to only mark that it's not started or complete. If this is an activity where you're doing daily status updates for a week-long plan, for example, you may want to go in and mark that this has been started. The benefit of marking that it's been started in the system is that you can quickly note exactly what day that activity was started. And it also gives a notice to those people that are downstream of your activity that their predecessor has been started, and then they can kind of keep an eye on that so they know that it's coming soon, that they'll be able to start their activity unconstrained. So these are all of the different options that you will see for border status and icons and marks within the system. This one now is the new version of the metrics that we started talking about previously. We are going to switch over to this version here, where this top section will show the number that you have committed or you have proposed to be committed to over the number of required should do, backlog can do, required must do, or work plan will do. So a work plan, your will do, the will do is the number of activities that you have committed to be part of that next commitment planning cycle. So if you have selected that you're going to do 10 activities next week, this number here would show 10. The ones above show some different metrics so that you can know what you should be doing, can be doing, or must be doing. For this first one, the required should do, that is going to give you the number of activities where the forecasted start date is on or before this planned finish date. So again, that's the forecasted start date, which typically is going to be your early start. If you're looking at it in terms of how P6 may be calculating this, the difference between early start and projected start, sorry, this should say projected start. Early start and projected start is that a projected start date will also take into account whether you have it marked as soon as possible or as late as possible. And we'll get into that in a different video. The next one on here, the backlog can do. This is just an overall number of what activities are able to be started on or before the cycle finish date based on being able to be unconstrained by that time. And then for the required must do, this is how many activities are there where the late start date is on or before the planned cycle finish date. So for that one, the late start or the latest on-time start date, that one is the one that shows you what is the latest this can be started without delaying your milestone. So for those, that is what you get in this required must do. And these tooltips will be getting added into the system so that you are able to see the tooltips and definitions right away. Starts after the cycle finish date is one that just lets you know that you might have selected that you will do an activity that is not planned to start until after this cycle finish date. So perhaps you're doing that because you know you're going to complete a predecessor in less time than the original plan duration is showing. Could be an example of why you would do that. And then your commitment level here, that one is going to be calculating the percent of the total activities you say that you will be doing over the total number of activities that you should be doing. So now let's get back into the system and go back into live demo. So for this example, we have a couple of purple ones here. That means that they were marked as ongoing on the previous plan. So if you mark them as ongoing, they are automatically added to your next plan. While you are in commitment planning mode, it does just take a left mouse click to be able to add any of these into your plan, or you're able to click them again to remove them. So I've gone ahead and I've selected a few activities, and I'm going to say that I plan on completing these 8 activities over this next week. So now I'm going to go ahead and save changes. That button will be going away in the future, but now I'm going to go ahead and commit to this plan. Okay, so now we are in active planning mode. So we have selected our project, we have selected that it's active, and we are no longer able to change the plan date. That is fixed because that is the date of the active plan. So these are the activities that we selected previously. And these are also showing up here in our list of unstatused activities. So what we're going to need to do, as we noted, is every activity must be statused in order to end this cycle. Any activity that is marked straight from planned to started, you are prompted to put in the actual start date. So let's go ahead and put in an actual start date here. But that has not been completed. So that one is still in your pending section. So now let's go ahead and mark that as complete. We will confirm when it was completed. And you can see it got the mark, and then it disappeared off of here because I do have show completed toggled off. For this next example, let's go ahead and change this straight to completed. And if you go straight from not started to completed, you get a prompt to mark both the actual start and the actual finish date. So let's say that we started that on Tuesday. And because we do have a predecessor that was marked as completing not until the 12th, we do have to note that it cannot actually have started until the 12th. So let's go ahead and use that for this example as well. We are also not able to mark things as having finished in the future. So there are a few rules that are built into the system that help to maintain the integrity of the system, of the commitment planning process. So activities cannot be started out of order, and they also cannot be marked as finished in the future. Let's go ahead and confirm that one as well. Okay. So now on this next example here, I'm going to show one that has been not completed as planned. So I get this pop-up here when you mark that it's not been completed as planned, and I have to give a reason for why. So all of these are able to be customized for each organization. And so let's go ahead and mark that perhaps we had unavailable equipment for this one. And the text field here is required. So let's say the crane broke down. I now have a couple of different options here as well. So I can choose whether I want to automatically propose it as being recommitted for the next commitment plan. If this was started, I can quickly add in an actual start date here while I'm working on this. I'm also able to adjust the planned duration. So this one here was a 0-day activity. This probably wasn't a great example to pick for the video because activities should probably not have a 0-day by best practice. Otherwise, it's technically a milestone. But for this, if this was a further duration of activity, it would show up what that activity duration was. So perhaps it was 0. And so that's why I wasn't able to complete it as planned. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 2 days. It is looking at what the calendar rule is for that activity. It does note that that is an activity associated with an 8-hour per day calendar. So that's why when I change it to 2 days, it's showing me that that's 16 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm that activity here. And then you can see it did get that maroon color. It's now noted that it was started, and it's showing now my forecasted completion date. For this next one here, let's go ahead and use this one as an activity example, and we're going to mark that one ongoing to the next plan. And for this one, I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint to show the new coming soon presentation of what that will look like. So when you mark it as an ongoing to the next plan, you are able to mark that actual start date. It will require an actual start date because if you did not start it during that cycle, then it would be completed or not completed as planned. So it should have been started during that cycle. As soon as you select the actual start date, these other dates will calculate in the system. So if it was started on April 3rd, it's showing you that this plan example had an end date of August 4th. It's showing the original plan duration was 5 days, and so therefore we completed 2 days in the plan. So we worked in on the 4th, or on the 3rd, and on the 4th, because your cycle end date is based on the end of that working day. Because of that, it's also showing that there's a suggested remaining duration of 3 days to carry on to the next plan. So here you can select, do you want to use that suggested remaining duration and carry 3 days on to the next plan? Or do you want to edit the remaining duration? Because this is ongoing to the next plan, you are able to reduce that duration. So for this example, we're showing that it suggested 3 days, but we're going to only say we only have 2 days left. So maybe we're only going to do this in 4 days instead of the original planned 5. That's still okay for an ongoing to next plan. If you do try to increase this number, you will get this secondary pop-up that says it looks like your remaining duration is more than expected, and would you like to change the status to not completed as planned instead? So you're able to change that status, and then you would just get that pop-up that lets you put in a root cause to explain why you did not complete that as planned. While we're still in the PowerPoint here, let's go ahead and look at the new version of the metrics that are coming soon. So on here, you will have unstatused. So that would just be a count of how many activities are up here in the plan. So that means it's activities that have not yet been marked as either complete, ongoing, or not completed as planned. It will also start counting up how many activities have you marked as completed, how many have you marked as ongoing, and how many have you marked as not completed. So in order to complete this plan, you would need your unstatus to be at 0. So you do need to provide a status for every activity in order to complete the plan. And it would have all of yours here in these other locations. So going back into the live mode here, let's go ahead and click that. So you can see that it is now orange. So orange means ongoing to the next plan. I do have a few left here. So let's go ahead and just mark all of these as completed so that we can complete this plan. So as I'm completing these, they are hiding from the view. This is an update that we're getting ready to place where if it is completed in the plan while you are in commitment planning mode, it does not hide them automatically, even if you do have show completed marked as not being filtered on. That way you are able to see a holistic view when you are in commitment planning mode of everything that was in that plan, including all of those activities that you marked as complete. So this one here, it looks like I cannot mark that one as complete. So you saw there was a warning. I'll let you look at that again. This one cannot be marked as complete because one or more of the required predecessors has not been completed. So this activity is this one here. You saw that we marked that predecessor as one of our not completed as planned. So the only thing that we can do with this one is also mark it as not completed as planned. It's not able to be marked as ongoing because ongoing requires that we started the activity during this cycle. And we cannot start it because our predecessor was not complete. And we cannot start activities out of order. If you do need to start an activity out of order, what you're needing to do then is you should be modifying your standard process or your activity flow diagram to show that that was not truly a predecessor of that activity. If it was able to be started before that one was completed, it's best to go ahead and change your logic arrows so that it was on a different requirement to be for that activity's predecessor. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and mark also that this was not completed as planned. And my reason for that was that I have an ongoing committed activity. Its predecessor was not completed because that one's ongoing as well. And for this one, maybe I talk as a team and I find out that predecessor is not going to probably be able to be completed during the next plan as well. So I'm going to go ahead and not even bother recommitting this one to the next plan. Okay, So now that everything has been marked as complete, I am able to complete this cycle. It is now saving all of those metrics in the database, and it's bringing me back into proposed view, and it's putting this next plan cycle finish date at 1 week out from the previous. So now when I show results here, you're able to see that ongoing activity from before. You're able to see that marked not completed as planned activity is no longer red, but rather it is marked in that proposed to be committed view. And now I can go ahead and mark any others that I want to propose to be committed as well. So that concludes our training for commitment planning. And please let us know if you have any questions.